Good morning, boys and girls. Today I'm going to read Ruby Holler again. I just want to go over a couple important things that have happened in the story so far since we're about halfway through. So kind of towards the beginning, Florida said that she felt that she'd never be part of a real and loving family when the Hoppers returned her back to the orphanage. And then they decided to go on with an older couple and to go on these trips. One to go down the river and one to go in search of a bird in Kangadoon. Okay, so the twins, they end up going with this older couple, and when they get to Ruby Holler, Florida was very surprised when Tiller offered to pay her $5 an hour to haul out the old canoe and fix it up. So she was very shocked at that. And then, Tiller and Sarah, they're kind of teaching some things around Ruby Holler, and Tiller hears this whacking noise coming around from the barn, so they go around and they check it out, and Florida and Dallas chopped a hole in the barn. Okay, and Sari played it off as they were doing them a favor and created a barn window for them. Then when they're talking about the things that they need for their trip and going into town, Tiller and Sari make the comment about going and getting some cash from their banks, their understone funds, and Dallas and Florida thought that was really neat. And so what was interesting about that was Tiller and Sari, they've known each other basically their entire lives, and they've been together for a very long time. And that is the only secret that they've ever kept from each other, is where they were hiding their money in Ruby Holler under those stones. And they only recently told each other where those stones were, because each person is paying for the other person's trip. Okay. So then Dallas and Florida decide to hop on the night train one night, but they get lost in Ruby Holler and end up just sleeping out. Well, Tiller and Sari ended up finding them and camped out with them and just said, "Oh, you're testing out the gear." So that's probably not what was really happening, but Tiller and Sari tried to play it off that way. And so now they are going on their little test runs. So Dallas and Sari are practicing hiking through Ruby Holler, and then Tiller and Florida are going down a small river that's nearby. Okay, so that's where we're at now. So now we are on chapter 33, Z's report. In the alley shack, Z leaned against the door. "So, like I said, they've already done gone. They're out of there." Mr. Trippett rubbed his hands rapidly back and forth, as if he were warming them. "Already? Are you entirely sure?" "They've all gone? Gone. Zappo." Z picked up the wooden door frame, loosening the splinter. Mr. Trippett paced the room, talking as he went. "Very good. Now we will start the project I mentioned. Are you prepared to keep this absolutely confidential?" Z spat on the floor and eyed Mr. Trippett. "Listen, if you don't trust me—" "Oh, no. Don't misunderstand me. Of course, I know you'll keep this confidential. It's just that this is a most delicate—" "I got it. Just tell me what I gotta do and tell me what the salary will be." "How are you at map making?" Mr. Trippett asked. "Map making?" Z said. "That don't sound too exciting to me. First, I want you to survey an area, and I'll tell you what to look for. And then I'll need you to make a map marking the locations of—" "What exactly am I looking for? And where am I looking?" Z picked at his teeth with a splinter. "Down in Ruby Holler. You find their cabin, see? And then you go about, let's say 20 feet out from it, in a circle. And you look for a stone. And then if you don't find it, you go, say, 30 feet out and look. And on like that, until you find it," Mr. Trippett explained. He had thought about doing this himself, but he didn't like rummaging around in the woods. And it would take far too much time. "A stone?" Z said. "Do you have all your brains? Do you know how many stones there are in Ruby Holler? My guess is about 100 million. Unless you're talking about a special stone, like maybe it's a green one or a red one, or I don't know what it looks like, But I guess it's not an ordinary stone. It's probably a big one, or maybe a pile of big ones. As he raked his fingers through his matted hair, what's so special about this stone, or this pile of stones? Mr. Trippett had expected this question, and he was prepared for an answer. With an answer. It marks a source, an oil source. He lied. See, they were thinking of drilling up there, and I'm just a little curious as to where this oil is. Seems to me, Z said, you could have asked them. They probably would have told you. If it's on their property, what do they care who knows where it is? I'm not entirely sure it is on their property, Mr. Trippett said. So, where's my salary? Z said. I ain't got all day. Mr. Trippett handed him a wad of bills. That's just a deposit. You bring me a map with any special stones marked on it, and I'll give you the rest of the money. Don't worry if you find the right spot. You'll get a fine salary. Okay, boss man, but I ain't spending a year looking. I'll go see what I see, and if it don't look too promising, I ain't gonna carry on scrambling through the dirt. Mr. Trippett returned to Boxton Creek home. He found his wife lying on their bed with a wet cloth draped over her forehead. He knew better than to ask what was wrong, because she would tell him. Nope. She would tell him which child had broken a window, and which one had broken an arm, and which one had tracked in mud, and which one had sassed her. She could go on like that for hours. So instead of asking her what was wrong, he said, I have some good news. I could use some good news, but that new girl broke. It's very good news. How would you like to leave this place and go off to an island somewhere? Mrs. Trippett slipped the cloth off of her head and sat up. You have a mighty poor idea of a joke, she said. I'm not joking. I think in a little time, very soon, maybe we might be coming into some money. And where exactly is this money coming from? Is it going to drop down from heaven and land at our feet? Let's just say I've got some investments that should be coming through any day now. There was a knock at their door. From outside, Morgan said, Ma'am, it's time to be getting dinner together. Mrs. Trippett swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood up. Lord spare me, she said. Chapter 34, Bearings. We'll be able to tell what direction we're going if the sun stays visible, Sari said, and trees will help. Moss usually grows on the north side of trees, and I'm a stupid for forgetting that compass. You're not a stupid. I'm sure we'll be fine, Sari said. Just fine. But she didn't sound convinced as they hacked through the brush. Let's talk about something, Dallas. Make the time pass more easily. So as you can see, Sari is very nurturing and loving and positive, while the twins are kind of down on themselves. They think the worst of things, and they're not very confident. So I think it's a good match. They matched up with these people. Like what? Tell me about the scary toothless lunatic you and Florida kept referring to. Was he really toothless? Really a lunatic? Yep. So tell me more about him. Don't like to talk about it, he said. Sometimes talking about it is good, Sari said. Just pretend you're talking to Florida. I don't know, Dallas said. What was his name? And what did that toothless mouth look like? Sari prodded. Well, I guess I could talk about it a little, he said. And so Dallas told Sari about the toothless Mr. Dreep and his wife with the fidgety fingers, and how Mr. Dreep had locked them in the cellar and then made them spend the night there in the smelly, damp rat place. But that's criminal, Sari said. That's a terrible thing to do to anybody. Well, he thought I sassed him, see? And so sass means that you're mouthing back. You've always got something to say, and you're just kind of giving him trouble. He told us we were going to have to dig a well, and I told him we couldn't do that. So I guess being in the cellar was our punishment for sassing. Dig a well? But that's criminal. I can't get my head around this, Dallas, and even if you did sass him, that's no reason to put you into a cellar. That's kind of what we thought, Dallas said, but we weren't exactly sure. Not sure? You mean you didn't think that was strange? You didn't think that it was terrible? Dallas shrugged. What good would that do? But Sari looked upset and confused. Is being in that cellar why you in Florida are so afraid of rats and mice and Dallas turned away. He didn't like to dwell on these things. His mind automatically stopped the scene and played a different one, like how he was imagining that he was a pioneer, the first person ever to hike this hill. Maybe he'd discover something incredible up here, something no one else had ever seen. Sari interrupted his reverie. How do you get out of that toothless lunatic's place? In the morning, Mr. Creep Dreep let us out and told us to follow him outside. We were so glad to be out of that rat hole and breathing some real air that we followed him. Then, then he handed us a couple shovels and told us to start digging. We didn't want to, but he said we wouldn't get breakfast until we made some progress on the well. So we started digging. Dallas, you were digging a well? I pretended I was digging for gold. You never know, right? And Florida pretended she was digging Creep Dreep's grave, so it didn't seem so bad, the digging. We dug for about 3 hours, and then we saw Creep Dreep walking away from the house like he was going out to the barn. So we watched until he was out of sight, and then we ran like nothing you've ever seen in your life. We ran and ran and ran and ran and hid in some trees, and then we heard him calling us, and he sounded really, really mad. So we stayed dead still. Dallas, I just can't hardly believe this, Sari said. It makes me feel mighty sick to my stomach. It's okay, Dallas said. Don't feel sick. We got away, didn't we? Hey, will you look at that? They'd reached a ridge and a clearing in the trees. Look at all those bumpy lumps of dirt. Looks like giant ant hills. Not as pretty as the holler, is it? Sari dabbed at her forehead. Sure is hot. You thirsty? Got the canteen? Canteen? Dallas said. Uh-oh, think you might have forgotten that too. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop there for today. We will try to read chapter 35 next time. All right, boys and girls, have a good day. Bye.